Hello, my name's Tim Kenny from Tim Kenny Surveying, and last week I attended a couple of Sava training sessions, and I kind of wanted just to share my kind of experience of that and my opinions on what I thought of it. If you're a Sava student thinking about doing the course, this video might be helpful for you, or if you're an employer thinking about taking on Sava students, you might also find this useful. Also, if you're a surveyor who is a little bit suspicious, a little bit kind of cautious of what Sava are doing, how they're training students, and the quality of surveyors they might produce, you might also find this interesting and informative. So specifically, I attended what Sava call their construction and building pathology sessions 1 and 2 over 2 consecutive days. The intake that I was kind of attending was for their Eastleigh or Southampton intake. And I kind of want to start by talking firstly about the students, because that's kind of quite a key thing into any training course. First thing that really struck me was, well, firstly there were kind of about 40 students in the room, which it's great to spend time with students who are in that early stage of their kind of progression into being a surveyor. The kind of energy and enthusiasm for looking at properties is it's amazing to kind of experience that. I've been doing this now for 15 years, and like most of us, you tend to get a little bit. I was not going to say run down, but when you get a little bit jaded. You're doing the job day in day out, so you maybe lose that sense of enthusiasm. So it's always great to spend time with students and kind of feel that almost the joy. And the interest they're seeing for learning these new things and seeing how that relates to actual properties. But so yeah, one thing that was great to see was kind of the diversity of those students. Key thing for me was the number of female students that were there. Surveyors, we do have a problem attracting women into the industry. And yes, I think that probably I would say about 30-40% of that intake were female, which is great news. The other thing to note was kind of the diverse backgrounds of those students attending the course. It is generally aimed at those that are coming from outside the industry. It's not a kind of a replacement of that direct route from A levels to university and everything through that. So they're people that are kind of coming at it a different way. They've usually had some experience in work before they're getting to the Sava course. And obviously you have people that are coming from kind of property related backgrounds, estate agents, letting agents, and also trades and construction professionals as well, which is great. And they bring some really solid knowledge of different aspects of property into their role as surveyors. But also there were a vast range of different people. You do get people that come from, say, marketing or IT or a gym owner, and personally I think that's a great thing, because they're bringing in a lot of different skills that we don't have within this industry, and that really help kind of change how surveying or residential surveying can be done. But to talk more generally about the training and how the training is provided, that was kind of, for me, was a great thing to see. So although it was a construction and building pathology session, it wasn't about just teaching the students, this is how you structure a foundation, and this is how you put a wall together. These are the different types of wall construction. This is the different types of floor construction. This is different types of roof construction. All of those things are important, and that's really important that all surveyors have that core construction technology knowledge. But the way Sava were kind of are training that to their students is through their Sava Learn platform, which is an online training platform. That's got all that pure technical information, that solid, factual. You've got to understand this. You've got to understand that from the building regulations. You've got to understand that. It helps take them through all of that learning before they get to these face-to-face sessions. I understand there's all the diagrams you could ever need, all the information you could ever need, plus testing and kind of assessment as part of that to make sure they really are taking in that information well. And the idea being that these are people that have paid a considerable sum of money to do a course, so they are likely to be self-motivated. we're not talking about GCSE students or kids at school that have to be kind of led through the process. These are professional adults who want to learn independently and want to do self-study to progress what they're doing. So that means that when they get to the face-to-face sessions, you can do something much better than literally just lecturing at them, and I think that's what Sava really established. So the idea of those sessions actually is then to take that knowledge that they've learned from the Sava Learn platform, that kind of real, solid, factual, technical knowledge, and start applying it to real properties, and the way the course was structured, firstly, it was about taking them through desktop research. So starting kind of at the beginning, as if you were doing a survey, what's the first thing you're going to do? Well, that's going to be your desktop research on an actual real property. Allowing them to kind of, I think, prior to the course, they were expected to have done the desktop study on a particular property, and then just kind of going through what that kind of flagged up. The property itself, nothing particularly difficult, nothing particularly special or amazing. And the truth is, most properties we look at as surveyors are fairly typical, but no less important for that, because it's that process that matters, not the end result. The end result can be anything for any different property, but if you get the process right, then you get the right information. And that's kind of what it was taking them through that desktop research process. And then moving on, literally just working around the property stage by stage, or element by element. So day one was a new build, relative new build. Day two, obviously an older property, a Victorian mid-terrace, I think. And just literally going through with them, okay, well, look, let's start at the bottom. Let's start with the foundations. Okay, yeah, you can't see it, but what do you expect there to be? What are the different types of foundation that it could be? How could that apply? What could be the problems with that? And then taking that through, literally as you would do as a surveyor, working up, okay, I've done the foundations, now I'm going to do the walls, and I'm going to do the windows, and the doors, and the roof, and the gutters, all the way around the outside. And then, same thing, coming around all the way around the inside. So the trainer, Mike Rigel, who, again, experienced surveyor in his own right, was just taking them through what he would do, how he would inspect, what he would expect to see, some really great detail about some very specific detail elements within the property. I think there was a quite a long discussion about weep vents in new properties and whether they're required in a rendered property or not a rendered property, where the regulation that kind of sat behind that came from, where the kind of guidance and everything else and all the NHBC information that backed that up. So kind of helping the students understand the process of, okay, what am I looking at a property? What can I see? What should I expect to see? If I don't see something, what could that possibly mean? Where can I find the information to back up what I should expect to see? So that whole thinking process. And then taking that on from, that stage of, looking at it, understanding it, knowing the detail behind it, saying, okay, well, what does that mean when you report on it? And that's kind of the key thing. We all, particularly as residential surveyors, we're expected to provide reports to our clients. If you understand everything that's behind that, but you can't report that usefully to your client, then it becomes a little bit useless and not that beneficial. So yeah, taking them through literally, okay, well, he put up what he would report for that element. So, what he would report for the walls, what he would report for the doors, and allowing them time to go through it, discuss it, understand it, and think about how they would present that information as well. And again, yeah, day two, exactly the same thing, but with an older property, and that gives obviously a different element and a different aspect of what they're doing. So I think kind of my take home from that was that Sava kind of have developed the course, and I know this is the kind of the way they're structuring these sessions has changed recently, but they're moving it away from just trying to hammer home technical information to students, and allowing them to take more responsibility for that side of it, the students themselves to take more responsibility for it, and using their face-to-face time to actually to give them more kind of job experience, if that makes sense. And, one of the reasonable criticisms for of any kind of the Sava course is that yeah, you can hammer through as much as you like in 2 years, but you need to make sure they're competent professionals when they come out at the end of it, because they will be going out and doing reports. So I think that's so good that they're putting that focus on, okay, well, actually, how does this knowledge relate to this property, relate to how you report back to a client? I think that is a great thing. I think that's partly why, these students will come out so well equipped to work in the role as a residential surveyor. I mean, yeah, it's true that there probably some of those students who hadn't done the prep work. That's kind of almost inevitable for whatever reason. Some it might be, they've got lots of things going on. Some might be that some aren't as motivated as they need to be. So you could see that there were some students who perhaps should have done more preparation before they got there. Now, it's true that, as they go through the assessment process and the learning process, if they haven't done the work behind it, they won't meet the assessment requirements. And again, the way the system is structured, it's kind of the assessor then can push them back to the information on Sava Learn and say, okay, no, you need to go away, you need to understand this better to make sure you are filling that gap in your knowledge, and then come back and retry on the assessment on that stage or whatever. So it's kind of, for me, I think it's a great way. I think they're combining, the best of that kind of online learning experience with the best of doing things face to face to get a very effective training program which they now have in place, and I think they will. I mean, the surveyors that they've produced already have been good. I think the way they're now structuring it, you'll get an even better end result. So for me, if you are somebody thinking about joining the residential surveying profession, then I think it is the best structured course out there at the moment. I think it's the only one doing it for residential, but they're still doing it very, very well. If you're an employer thinking about taking on a Sava, Sava graduate or even a Sava student just before they end their process, I think you'll be getting someone who has had, again, the best training, not just technically, but they've also been given, the benefit of kind of other surveyors' experience to then make them, so they can then take that forward in their own career and pick up more experience. If you're a surveyor who is suspicious of these new people coming into the industry, we would say please don't. They are getting, as I say, I keep saying it, but they're getting a really high quality level of training. They're getting the solid technical knowledge with that solid basis of experience as well. There will be gaps in their knowledge. I mean, I have gaps in my knowledge. We all as surveyors have gaps in our knowledge. We all learn something new all of the time. I learned something new, learn new stuff on that course. I've learned about a different system of fixing slates that I just never happened to have seen before. It's not common in the area where I work, so I hadn't seen it. It may well be that 2 days down the line I'll probably see it and it'll be really useful for me. But we all have those gaps, and obviously Sava are doing their best to give them everything they can. And but it may well be that once they're out and working, they need to learn new things. But that's no different for all of us. So I just want to leave you with the idea that I think for me it was a great thing to sit through. They really are getting some good information into their students. So thank you very much.